Hello there, welcome to this edition of Global Business Africa. In the course of the hour, we'll run through the key business and economic news stories you need to know about for the continent and beyond. But first, an update from the markets. Zimbabwe's new currency, the ZIG, or the ZIG, apparently as it's being referred to in some cases, it strengthened on the second day of trading up to around 13.53 to the dollar. Now, at the moment, though, that switchover is not 100% complete, with barely a third of the financial institutions in the country able to process ZIG payments. Now, that's according to the national payments platform ZimSwitch. Africa's economic growth will accelerate from a low of 2.6% in 2023 to 3.4% this year. That's according to the latest forecast from the World Bank in its Africa Pulse report. The recovery, the bank says, will primarily be driven by greater private consumption growth, as declining inflation tends to boost the purchasing power of household incomes. Let's dig a little deeper into that report. Andrew Debelen is the chief economist for Africa at the World Bank, is joining us now live on the program. Andrew, good to have you on the program tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Let's start with the debt side of things. Public debt levels are forecast to fall in aggregate, right, from 61% to around 57% of GDP. But what exactly is driving that decline in debt? Is it because governments are borrowing less and they're running smaller deficits, or can we attribute some of that decline to the debt restructurings we're seeing in some countries?
Ramah, thank you so much for having me on your program. I would say it's the combination of the first 2 points that you mentioned, right? Fiscal balances have declined, and that's partly because governments are raising more revenue or reducing spending, or both.
I take the argument that, look, we're on a continent where 600 million Africans do not have access to power from the grid, right? There's fiscal considerations for petrostates like Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria as well. But you know, at some point, if you're going to say, OK, you want us to give up our oil and gas assets, fair enough. Where's the capital to essentially replace, right, to cover the opportunity cost that comes along with giving up these oil and gas assets, given that we have all these other obligations that we have to our citizens?
It should be a dual-pronged approach, right? If you look at most of the people in the frontal push of net zero, reality is we all are very considerate about the earth and the earth positioning. But what is important is if you think back, they have gone through and approaching their fourth industrial revolution. Most of the African countries we're talking about have not even had their first industrial revolution.
What they do not agree on is the power source. Will it be increasingly better batteries or something else? The answer, if you're Hyundai, is this: hydrogen fuel cells. The only thing you're getting out of the back as far as emissions are concerned is water. Other manufacturers, however, are taking a different perspective.
On the afternoon of Thursday, July the 26th, 1928.
When explorers in the 1840s first described seeing a snow-capped mountain on the equator, people did not believe them. Many attempts were made to be the first to reach the top, but it was a long time later, in 1889, before the mountain was finally conquered by a team led by German geographer Hans Meyer. Because it's still a big glacier, snow can pile up on top and freeze solid. However, the total area of the northern ice field continues to reduce as it takes a huge amount of snow to expand a glacier sideways. We've seen a lot of individuals and businesses still trading in cryptocurrencies, despite central banks, despite finance ministries saying, we don't think you should go into this space. Has any of this experience made you change your minds about how you think about crypto and the place of crypto assets or the tech from the crypto world in the financial system?
For us, crypto asset, it's something that is feasible, but we said it is not a cryptocurrency. So as any asset, those who want to engage and use it can do it.
Beyond that wave of repayments that's due 2024, 2025, are there other parts of debt in African sovereigns that we should be concerned about?
When you look into the sovereign debt crisis, it is a global crisis. It's not an African crisis. You have $86 trillion of debt in the world.
What worries you? What keeps you up at night with respect to African debt? Should we be concerned beyond Eurobonds? Because Eurobonds are one thing, but beyond that, are there other monsters lurking in the dark?
The moment there is an exogenous shock, And it can be the invasion of Ukraine, it can be COVID, it can be an American financial housing crisis. Everybody withdraws their funding from frontier markets, including Africa. Frontier markets currencies tank. At that moment, the debt service in local currency for African governments shoots up at the worst possible time.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and your attention. They will, of course, be around for the remainder of the event, so fire away at all your questions at my panelists.